up a dive. Feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's so I remember right. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Monsters on the Edge on the Untold Radio Network. I am your host, Barnaby Jones. Today, we are back live. That's right. It's been a lot of recorded episodes, and it's going to be a lot of recorded episodes after this. So enjoy it while we're here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Lee Warner. Happy Monday. Kim, happy Monday. And Southern Belle Bigfoot, happy Monday to you as well. We are live, so if you have any questions or comments throughout the show, throw them in the comments section. We'll get to them as soon as we can. Coming up, guys, not this weekend, next weekend, May 10th, it is finally here. Cryptids, Anomalies, and Paranormal Convention in Appleton, Wisconsin. We are coming to you from the Doubletree by Hilton. We have a lovely selection of guest speakers rounding everything from Bigfoot to paranormal to strange things in Wisconsin and local as well. Followed up by the main event of the day is going to be a psychic gallery reading by the one and only Angela Zabel at 7 p.m. and the premiere of the Hairy Man of Dairyland, Wisconsin's Bigfoot at 6.
Right here in the road, and it was right on the line, standing right there.
Whatever it was breaking trees, breaking branches, and I've never heard that before.
And from the basement door, I was like, Louie, I'm pretty sure there's a footprint out here.
And that's when the rocks started coming out of this tree line.
All I seen was hair. And it was like arched over right here.
And then out of nowhere we hear this loud, like earth-shaking grunt.
It rolled its shoulder and grabbed the ground and pulled itself towards my vehicle.
And I heard a plunk, and I come over here, and that squash was laying about right there in the middle of my garden, you know.
How do you walk in that in bare feet at 30-degree temperature?
Did you see that?
What was that? I saw something dark in the light from the right to the left.
It was big.
Could be the little bit.
And if you guys can't make it out in person, we also have virtual tickets. So no matter when you are or where you are, you can live stream or after the fact stream all of our speakers from that day for only $5. Head on over to wisconsincaps.com and click on the public events tab or the CapCon banner for more information. Also, guys, then we head to Chicago on June 7th for the Chicago Paranormal Convention. I will be at a bunch of libraries, including Lodi, Wisconsin, Cedarburg, Wisconsin, UFO Days in Elmwood, Wisconsin, July 26th, SilCon in Gaze, Illinois in September, the Van Meter Visitor Festival in September as well, and then a special presentation at the Neenah Public Library that will include a paranormal investigation afterwards. So you do not want to miss that one. If you're around, head on over to wisconsincaps.com, click on the public events tab, and you can get all that information and more. All right, guys, if you want to show your support for all things here on the Untold Radio Network, here's how.
Hey, Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
All right, guys, my guest is no stranger to the show and hopefully no stranger to any of you guys out there. So my guest today is Shetan Noir. She is currently the owner of Squatch GQ LLC and also a Michigan-based author and paranormal travel journalist. She also teaches courses on the paranormal and the history of Great Lakes and cryptozoology of North America at Owens Community College and Kellogg's Community College. Shetan also teaches classes for the University of Magikus, which is co-owned by Patti Negri. She has written several books on cryptozoology and is working on more. So, ladies and gentlemen, the resume just goes on and on. It's all in the bio. You can check it out. Please welcome to the show, Shetan Noir. Welcome back, Shetan.
Well, hello, everyone, and good morning. It's a bright, sunny day here, so hopefully everybody else is having nice weather. Not so much there.
Tornadoes here in Wisconsin.
Actually, it's a bit windy out today, but other than that, it's sunny and like in the 70s right now. So Michigan's actually pretty nice right now.
A little bit jealous here, Shetan. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked outside. I've been napping since I got home at 7 a.m. But I hear light sprinkling on my windows. But we're supposed to have some pretty nasty tornadoes and stuff. We'll send them to you tomorrow, though, I think so.
Yeah, we're supposed to be windy tomorrow, but still decent weather. I mean, like 60s something. So it's almost time to like break open the like seals on all the windows and get the fresh air moving around. So
you can tell we're from the Midwest. There's tornado warnings and sirens going off.
It's like, is it May yet? Is it like Mother's Day yet? You know, can we actually, open the windows and not have snowflakes?
Yeah, no, not till after May. Not till after, at least in Wisconsin. I don't know about you guys, but
usually around Mother's Day is the safe bet.
About, yeah. Just after that, is the final snow. So, yeah. All right. The final snow of the year. Yeah. And then, it always has to ruin the best holiday, Halloween, because that is always the snow is literally Halloween here in by where I am. So,
and that's like we're so getting off topic, but and that's so weird because Wisconsin has is it no, it's Wisconsin or Minnesota? Anokia. Minnesota, is it? Or Wisconsin is the Halloween capital of the world. So
really
it's weird that it snows on Halloween, but yeah, Anokia.
I don't think it's Wisconsin.
I think
feel
it's
you guys
Minnesota.
know.
I think it's Minnesota. Anokia,
Okay.
Minnesota. Because it's at the very bottom of the state.
Oh, Shetan. You always learn things from you. I'm gonna have to look this up. Where's my Lee Warner? Lee Warner is my backstage research and fact checker. Find out where Anokia is. Anokia, the Halloween capital. Put it in the comments section. Thank you, Lee. Anyway, so we are here today to talk about, I believe, one of your favorite topics because
yes,
you've literally written an entire book here on this, lake monsters and creatures of the Great Lakes. Awesome. So your book has been out for a little while, not new, so a lot of people should have it, or if they haven't got it, the links are in the show notes for people that are interested in it. But well, let's start. Why are there lake monsters in the Great Lakes? Like we all know, like Nessie, and there's a few other ones around the world that are pretty famous. But what do we got around here?
So our Great Lakes, and because you are part of the Midwest Great Lakes, state, Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, Ontario are all gigantic bodies of water, with Superior probably being the biggest of all five. And even Erie being the smallest surface-wise. These are gigantic bodies of water that anything could live in. And the depths of these waters, like Lake Superior is over 1,800 feet. If you look at Lake Erie, which is our smallest of the Great Lakes, this is a Great Lake that a modern day ship, the Bessemer Marquette #2, went missing in, and that's an all metal ship. 2 stories high, 500 feet long, or about the length of a football field. It's resting somewhere on the bottom of Lake Erie, and they still have not found her to this day. So when you take into consideration those facts, the fact that these are whole ecosystems that fish, mollusks, amphibians, occasionally alligators, crocodiles, shorebirds, all live in, that has an abundance of fresh water, abundance of food, there could always be the possibility of a bigger predator being in those waters.
That's insane. Like when you put it that way, I know people haven't seen this yet, but me and you have recorded already a episode coming up for the Paranormal Spectrum show on the ghost ships of the Great Lakes and all that. And that was a really fascinating episode for me. I'm going to tell you right now, that was really fun and I enjoyed it. So looking forward to that one for people that are listening to that. I'm not sure when it comes out yet, but that one will be coming. But you're talking about full ships, 2-story steel ships that we know are out there and we can't find them, haven't seen them, don't know where they are. And you're talking like, this maybe the size of a school bus lake monster, right? So like this huge Nessie maybe that's out there. And no wonder you can't find it. It could be living inside that ship.
Very possibly. And because the Great Lakes their depths are so, I mean, just unimaginable. But most of our shipwrecks are below what is considered a technical dive or a recreational dive. So when you get into that technical dive depth, you really need to be trained in how to do it, or go down in a submersible, or use an ORV. And still, like, we know that these ships went missing, but we only know where a handful of them are. And when you consider that over 20,000 ships have gone missing on the Great Lakes, never to be seen again. And you're saying that there, you know, oh, there's no possible way there could be a lake monster down there. Really? Because I've seen how big the turtles get here in Michigan. And a couple of our Lake Michigan monster reports are giant turtles. So with turtles being one of those species that have indeterminate growth, meaning however big their habitat is how big they will grow. Well, Lake Michigan's quite a large habitat and has salmon, has trout, has bass, anything that a turtle could want to eat. So there's the potential for it to grow to gigantic lengths. I mean, it's not unheard of, especially in the fossil record. If you take a look at the creature, the turtle species Archelon, this creature was 15 feet from the tip of its nose to the tip of its tail, and 13 feet from the tip of its flipper to the tip of its other flipper. That's bigger than most people's trucks. And that was a creature living in the fossil record related to modern day turtles. So there is still the possibility for creatures like this to be out there.
It makes a good point here. Freshwater sea turtle. I was just thinking about this. Freshwater turtles would be a cool discovery. You know, all the big sea turtles, the hawksbills, the leatherbacks, turtles, those are all sea turtles. They're all saltwater, right? Do we have any freshwater turtles that we know of?
Oh yeah. So your alligator snapping turtle can get quite huge. Your soft-shelled turtles can get quite huge. I have seen snapping turtles the size of a semi-truck tire. That's a very, very old turtle. But still, if it has no predators or anything like that, it can keep on growing, and the older they get, the bigger they get.
That's kind of, I think, the standard for all like sea creatures, right? Like, you know, even like lobsters, and you know, I have goldfish in a pretty big tank, and some of those are really big. You know, that's how you get like koi and stuff. They just, if they have room to grow, the longer they live, the larger they keep getting. So,
yeah, with reptiles, amphibians, and fish, aquatics, generally the bigger the area they have to live, the territory, habitat, aquarium, whatever, the bigger they will get.
So what have people actually seen? Have people reported seeing big turtles out there?
So in Lake Michigan, we have two different giant turtles. One is the Lake Leelanau monster, and one is the Stearns Bayou monster. Both are reported to be turtles. So you've got giant sturgeon stories from the Native Americans. You have giant turtles. You have your sea serpents, which that is as basic and a definition of of the creature as you can get. You have your amalgamations, which are mostly Native American legends. Creatures like Inabishu, the great underwater panther, Gassendia, the meteor dragon. These creatures encompass a whole lot of different parts of other animals. So like the antlers of a moose, scales of a fish, spiky, manes going down their necks, different parts of different known animals combined into one to make a amalgamation. Then you've got your prehistoric marine reptiles. And we have at least one case of a merman.
Interesting. All right. Well, we got to go down the mermaid thing now. So what do we tell us the story of the Great Lakes mermaids?
Well, it's not mermaids, it's merman. Okay.
Fair.
So not Jason Momoa. There's no Aquaman in this. This creature, the great Nibis, or the great Manitou Nibis, he is the god of the lakes, and he is quite small, about the size of a 4-year-old child, and he controls the lakes. You do not want to anger this creature because he can send storms, very bad storms. So the one and only report that we have of this creature comes from a Northwest trading company's fur trader. His name was Saint Germain. And he was crossing Lake Superior with his group of trappers, and he had a Native American woman with him who was helping him negotiate with other tribes for furs and pelts and goods that they needed. So they were crossing the northwestern part of Lake Superior, and they came across Pie Island. And they had been on the lake canoeing for several days, so they thought this was a good spot to stop, set out some beaver traps, and make camp for a few days. So as they bring their canoes onto shore and start getting things ready to put out beaver traps, one of the men looks out in the water and he sees what he at first thinks is a 4-year-old child swimming way out in the water. And he's trying to watch it, and he's like, he makes up in his mind, nope, that's not a child, that's a beaver. That's a 4-foot-long beaver. So he gets his gun and he starts packing it full of gunpowder and bullets, and he's trying to keep an eye on it. And the Native American woman is watching him with curiosity because she's like, why are you looking out into the water with a gun? And then she realizes what he's looking at, and she is very startled at this because she's like, oh, I know what that is. So she's arguing with him. No, you can't shoot that. You can't shoot that. You can't shoot that. Suddenly all the men have taken interest. And as they all turn and look at it, they're like, beaver, everybody grab a gun, shoot the beaver. Well, as they're all, now the Native American woman, she's arguing with all of them. No, you can't shoot that. And they're like, it's a beaver, we're going to shoot it. And she's like, no, it's not a beaver. You're not going to shoot it. Well, about this time, the creature kind of stands up in the water and it waves at them. And then it proceeds to dive underneath the water and swim off. And she is just horrified. And it's at this point she tells the men, do whatever you're going to do. That was the great Manitou, Nibinibus. He's the god of the lake. And now that we have seen him and he has seen us, he's going to send a storm and he's going to try to kill us. So she just throws up her hands, grabs what she needs for supplies, heads straight into the middle of the island. Starts building a shelter. And the men are fuming because a 4-foot-long beaver could make a poor man rich. You just had to get that pelt into a fur trading, post and make your fortune, which wasn't going to be a quick process in that day, but hey, it was an option. So they finish laying out the beaver traps and they pull the canoes up on shore. And it's about this time that the Native American woman has disappeared into the island. And the men start to notice that the wind is picking up. And it seems to be coming from all different directions, headed straight towards the island that they're on. And the sky is getting darker and darker and darker. And this is quite concerning because it's only midday. So they start to talk and they're like, it was kind of weird that it waved at us. Beavers usually don't do that.
The beaver behavior.
Maybe she was right. So they secure the canoes. They go find the Native American woman, and she's got a modest shelter built. With their help, she's able to complete a better shelter. And it's as soon as they get that shelter finished, the skies open up, and for 3 days and 3 nights, a storm like none of them have ever known rains down on the island, to the point where they're pretty sure they're going to be washed out into the lake. And then on the 4th morning, the sun returns. And as they all exit the shelter and see the sun again, she gets into each one of their faces and she's like, now, if you ever see that creature again, you're going to ignore it, right? And they all agree, yes, we're going to ignore it. Well, Jermaine thought that this was such an important event that he went in front of the king's magistrate in Montreal and made a full report to them of this creature. And that's how we have this story of the great Manitou Nibinibus.
Which also kind of explains why you don't have any other reports, because if you're supposed to ignore it and not look at it and not shoot at the poor little guy, it would be a pretty good reason why no one else went, well, I didn't see that. No, let's look over here. Because
she was like, no, you will never point a gun at that thing again. Ever.
Interesting. So do we have any other native stories about like the giant turtles or the sea serpents and stuff?
So the giant turtles are actually not Native American stories. They were witnessed by people in like the early 1900s here, or 1800s. Here in Michigan. So there wasn't any Native American story about these giant turtles, but the Stearns Bayou Monster, there was a surgeon and his family who were staying at a cabin on Stearns Bayou, which is a little waterway off of Lake Michigan. And one evening, while they were sitting on their screened in porch so that they were getting the nice breeze off of the lake and It was cooler. You know, this is in July in Michigan, so it can get kind of hot. They hear what they think is a bunch of drunken fishermen coming up the river, and so the men of the family go out to yell at the fishermen to, hey, quiet down. You know, this is our family property. We want to enjoy ourselves. But what comes towards them down the waterway is not a group of fishermen in a rowboat making tons of noise. It's a very large turtle. It's described as having a long alligator-like tail, a soft shelled body, the head of a hippopotamus, and the most interesting feature of this turtle is it's bioluminescent. They can see it glowing underneath the water. Now, this is not natural occurring. So in my opinion, this turtle probably was exposed to radium. And that's why it was glowing. And it proceeded to swim past their cottage, and they were like, nobody's going swimming in that river anymore. This thing was huge. Easily bigger than their rowboat. On the second occasion that this creature is seen, the dad is actually out on the screened-in porch, trying to rest because he wants to relax for the weekend before he has to go back to the city on Monday to do surgeries and medical work. And he hears that same sound, and he's like, oh, here it comes. Well, this time it comes to the river, like right next to their cottage, but then proceeds to climb out of the river onto the shore across from them. And it's a sandy area, and he observes it laying an egg, which takes it most of the night to do. And by early morning, as the creature is slipping back into the water and swimming off, daylight comes up, and he waits till everybody in the family's up, and then he and another member, another uncle or brother or whatever, go over in a rowboat and they collect the egg. Now, turtles are pretty territorial with their eggs, so the female must have like gone to rest or eat or something, because she did not come out of the water to attack them. So they collect the egg, and they're going to take it into town to ask the locals if anybody has seen this type of turtle before. And then they were going to possibly return the egg. Well, that evening there was an ice cream social in town. And as they were riding the horse-drawn wagon into town, they were going across the wooden bridge, which was bouncing, and the gentleman tasked with holding onto the egg was sitting on the edge of the wagon and quickly realized either he was going into the water with the egg, or he lets go of the egg and holds on to the wagon for dear life. And that's what he ended up doing, was he lost the egg. So they were never able to find it. The turtle never returned to that spot as far as they know, to lay another egg. So we don't know if that was the last living generation of this turtle, or if she found a more secluded spot to lay her egg.
So it does kind of sound like a very large alligator snapper, though.
It does, or a very unique soft-shelled turtle.
Yeah.
But yeah, the head of a hippopotamus, soft-bodied, tail of an alligator, and it was like the way that they describe it, the whole length of the animal would be probably longer than their horse-drawn wagon.
That's a big turtle.
But the fact that it was bioluminescent and glowed in the dark waters was an interesting fact. And I should do the research and see if somewhere along the Lake Michigan shoreline, if there was a radium factory and if they dumped it in Lake Michigan at all, because that would explain the bioluminescence.
I don't know. Interesting. I'm trying to think, like, if if it's the first time they saw it was during the day or the night. Did you say?
Was during the daytime. Okay. Well, it was getting towards evening.
Okay. Okay. Huh. And then, so is this going to be? Did they describe it like as a sea turtle or how do you describe the flippers?
It was an aquatic turtle. It was an aquatic
fin type.
Yes.
Now, don't the sea turtle varieties, don't they lay like hundreds of eggs at a time?
Yep.
Yeah.
But the size of this egg was actually described as a large pumpkin. So maybe she only had one egg because of its large size. The egg was described as being leathery but gelatinous, so like a Jello egg, like in a leather casing. Yeah. That's how they described it, and it was it had yellow with red spots on it. So kind of a large egg for a turtle to lay.
Yeah. So I don't know that much about like the reproductive of turtles and stuff. Are they like chickens? Do they lay eggs for the hell of it every day, or do they have to?
No, they have. So turtles have a breeding season and a gestation period, which takes them like most of the year. So they typically will lay their eggs in the fall, bury them, and then those eggs, they make sure that they're in like vegetation that will keep it warm. Mm-hmm. And that's why you see baby turtles a lot in the spring, because they hatch and they instinctively go towards water.
So they're underground all winter too?
Yep.
Ooh, that doesn't sound like a healthy situation there.
Yeah, they are not live birthed. They are laid in eggs, and then those eggs develop into baby turtles.
Interesting. I didn't realize there was such a long a period in between. Is that just sea turtles, or is that all turtles?
That's all turtles. That's all turtles.
Interesting.
And there's a difference between turtles, box turtles, and tortoises.
That I know.
Okay.
That I know, yes.
We're talking about aquatic turtles, so right, like your snappers, your painters, your soft-shell turtles.
Interesting. So nobody else has seen that guy since, the big luminescent one?
Nope. Not that we have received any reports of it. The Lake Leelanau monster is actually a more recent than even Stearns Bayou, and that's because Lake Leelanau is a man-made lake, but they put fish in it and stuff like that. And that story goes that a young man named William decided he was going to go fishing for his perch dinner. And so he borrows a rowboat, has a fishing pole, rows out to where he thinks fish might be in the lake. And there are these trees standing up out of the water. And I call them zombie trees because they're the trees that you see in these man-made waterways that will be there for the rest of eternity. They're not dead, but they're not really thriving and living either. So he rows up to one, doesn't have an anchor, so he decides he's going to tie his rowboat to this sapling. And as he's doing so, his rowboat is butting against what he thought were the roots of the tree until this large head and neck raises up out of the water and looks him in the face. And he freaks out, pulls the rope loose, falls back into the rowboat, starts rowing away. And then he notices that the trees that he was going to tie his boat up to are moving away from him. And this turtle was longer than what his rowboat was. So he decided, nope, he's never going fishing again after that. Now, this was probably a snapping turtle because snapping turtles are capable of having, like, even little guys, like the size of dinner plates, can have up to like 4 inches of vegetation on their shell, which helps them hide from predators. So we're thinking, okay, 12-foot rowboat, 12-foot turtle, that could probably have a couple of feet of vegetation on it. So no wonder he thought it was just one of these trees growing up out of the muck.
So he tried to tie his rowboat to the back of the turtle, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Huh. But that was a man-made lake. So this turtle would have had to have migrated from another body of water into it.
It's a man-made lake, but it does have a waterway that leads into Lake Michigan.
Okay. Oh, okay. I gotcha. Interesting. So moving on from turtles, what else? We got sea serpents, which I think this is really interesting. I don't know that, like, a lot of people, when you think of lake monsters and Nessie and all these creatures of the depths, you think of the plesiosaur creature.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really surprising because a lot of your sea serpent lake monster reports are sea serpents,
right?
Which are not plesiosaurs. They're serpent, eel, snake-like creatures.
And it depends on the body of water too. So like Lake Michigan has a northwest or east-west wave pattern.
Okay.
Lake Superior is basically an inland sea. Lake Huron is more of a river system. It's a giant river system, but most of your current is heading south. And so for some reason, Lake Huron seems to be more of a home for sea serpents than any other body of water. And because sea serpents tend to be very streamlined, very agile, they can move in and out of the waves very easily. We get a lot more sea serpent reports in Lake Huron than we do any of the other Great Lakes.
So I'm going to pull this up real quick here. So this is the cover of your book, but where are we looking here? So this is Lake Michigan. Oops, hang on. I'm on the wrong screen. This is Lake Michigan, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then so this is, what are the little sea serpents down here? Look at that. All right. So what are the
where the thumb of Michigan is, okay, that body of water in there, that's Lake Huron.
Okay, so this is Huron.
So Lake Michigan and Lake Huron are actually one continuous body of water, but because we like to name things, Lake Michigan is on one side, Lake Huron's on the other side, and then you've got the Straits of Mackinac combining the two. Lake Superior is connected through some riverways and the Sioux Locks.
That's this one, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, and then when you come down to the bottom of Lake Huron, that's Lake Erie.
Okay.
And then when you go up to that last little body of water, that's Lake Ontario.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, I live here and I don't know these things. I don't know why I never learned geography, but yeah. So just for anybody else that may have been as lost as I am, but there you go. So, and I didn't notice this until I brought this up really big, but you have little lake monsters in here. The little plesiosaur down here, the little guys up in here, and I gotta point this out. Is this like a little island up here?
Yep.
Okay. Am I the only one who thinks that this thing looks like a werewolf head or something? I don't know. Just saying. That's where the werewolf sightings are. All right. Continue on. Sea serpents of Lake Huron.
Okay. So we have the majority of our lake monster reports in Lake Huron are sea serpents. And they're described as anything from being 18 inches in diameter to like keg barrels thick, from 10 feet long to 40 feet long. Every color of the rainbow, sometimes with horns, sometimes with sails down their back. But we've had numerous reports of them. One of the best reports came from Goddard, Michigan, which is up towards the area right here.
Do you want your map back up? So this?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's where you okay. Yeah. So it's close to the Straits of Mackinac. And back in the 1960s, the police were getting a phone call like every few minutes from people on the shoreline reporting sea serpents. And finally, they sent out a sheriff's deputy, and he did observe something swimming through the water, bobbing up and down. And people said that there were multiple creatures. They were never able to determine how many there were because they were never able to get close enough to them to actually spot where the head was, where the tail was. And these creatures were moving around so much that they had a very hard time documenting how many there were. So we know that there was at least one. There might have been several of these sea serpents in that area.
That doesn't seem very big to me. I mean, like a keg is, pretty big around, but I mean, like when you're talking sea monsters and stuff that, you're seeing out in the water, that doesn't seem all that large. I know sturgeons get pretty big. I know we got sturgeons around here.
Yes,
but I mean,
so one of the biggest sturgeons caught was 6 feet long. They determined she was about 200 years old. But sturgeon are a little bit flatter of a fish, and they could be easily mistaken for sea serpents. But these things were frolicking in the water. And that's the exact description that not only the people, the eyewitnesses gave, but the sheriff's deputy gave. And he went out into the water in a motorboat to observe these creatures, and they were frolicking in the water.
Interesting. Do we have any major commercial fishing out in these waters?
There's a huge sports fishing industry here in the Great Lakes. And you've got your everyday anglers who went and bought a license and, hey, this is my weekend pastime to go fishing, to charters that go out for like salmon and bass and perch and stuff like bluegill, all different types of sports fishing. Sturgeon aren't really a sports fish because of the way that their jaws are. In order to hook a sturgeon or a muskie or a gar, you have to hook them with the right kind of, hook. And once they've been caught one time, they will never be caught again. They're just too smart. And it's also because of how their jaws are formed. It's a very bony jaw, and there's really no place for the hook to hook into. You almost have to get them to swallow it.
That's
and
why sturgeons spearing them, I suppose.
Yeah. And now sturgeon are a protected species because they actually do more for the ecosystems in the lake than taking them out of the lake. Like your sturgeon are going to be the ones who eat the silver carp, especially the silver carp fry that eat up all of the algae and vegetation. And that leaves nothing for the sports fish fry to hide in. So you want your sturgeon around to eat those silver carp and their babies. Otherwise, the fishing industry will plummet.
But you don't know of any like large, like the big net ships and stuff that go out and they pull up the big nets full of fish and stuff. There's none of that.
So,
in the Great Lakes.
Back when I was a child, I remember in Lake Michigan, the Native Americans could put out nets like that and collect. But they had 1 or 2 years where the nets were broken free and drowned the fish that were in them, and rotting fish were like, it was a waste. It was such a waste. But rotting fish were just like showing up on the lake shore, and they kind of outlawed that.
Okay.
So now it's rod and reel that you have to catch them with.
It just seems like, if you have, you go out in the ocean and you throw out a big net, you get a big net full of fish, and people are catching dolphins and stuff in these things and all kinds of stuff. And, you have such a smaller space to work with. I know they're really deep, and, we talked at the beginning about lost ships and stuff, but you still have this smaller pool to fish from, that if you're throwing this net down there, the chances of you accidentally.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much been outlawed here in the Great Lakes. Just because if the nets break free, then all those fish are a waste. And then they have to repopulate the lakes, and it's just better if they, rod and reel.
What do you think about the whole thing of the certain latitude is where we tend to see a lot of the sea serpents and lake monster sightings? Like all of your stuff is like Canada, and then Scotland and the US, and that you don't get a lot of the reports in the southern hemisphere and stuff.
Well, you do get lake monster reports. There's lake monster reports from all over the world. But here in the Great Lakes, we've got a variety of different ones. So plesiosaur, Loch Ness, our primary reports for that one is Lake Erie, which is actually our shallowest of the Great Lakes. And yet, like I said, there's a huge freighter that's still missing in that lake that nobody has found. And so if it's a free moving, live animal that can go wherever it wants, then of course you're not going to find it, because there's no way to section off parts of the lake. Now, the one thing about Lake Erie is it's not a good lake. It's known for a toxic algae bloom that happens every year because of the runoff of pharmaceutical waste, fertilizers, biologics, all that, and it all washes into Lake Erie, and it forms a toxic algae bloom. You don't want to swim in this. You don't want to eat fish from this lake. So Lake Erie is probably one of the lakes that I would not go exploring in just because of that toxic algae bloom.
Has there been any expeditions or anything to go look for lake monsters and stuff in there? And not there specifically, but the Great Lakes in general?
I would love to do an expedition to go look, but you're going to run into the same problems that they've experienced. Like, so Loch Ness is the test ground for all expeditions. And they have tried everything on Loch Ness to determine whether there's lake monsters and have not had positive results. Well, problem is, these are open bodies of water. And if there's something living in those bodies of water, if you're using things like radar, sonar, and the animal is sensitive to it, it will move away from. Because if it's like experiencing sonar from something bigger than itself, to that creature, that means predator, run, hide, predator. And the eDNA, well, just because you did eDNA in this one certain part of the lake does not mean that the animal's there, especially if there's boat activity. Did they do eDNA in a grid pattern all over that lake? No, they didn't.
A lot of testing. Yeah.
So your lake monsters can go anywhere in the lakes, and you can be in the right location where you've had several sightings, but for whatever reason, whether it's the equipment that you're using or human activity in the area, the monster might just swim off into a different area of the lake and you will never know it was there.
Not necessarily for depth, but how does Loch Ness pan out with the other Great Lakes? Like, is it similar in size to any of them, or?
So with the way Loch Ness is formed, I would say that Lake Erie is similar in shape and size to Loch Ness, except Lake Erie gets more sunshine than Loch Ness does. Loch Ness tends to be very dark, and Lake Erie, we know, at least has more sunlight.
And that, you said, was this bottom one down here with the little guy?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's, I mean, looking at size, I mean, not depth. I know Loch Ness is really deep, and we're not interested in that specifically, but just the size of the water body for length and breadth, I guess. That's very small, considering, like, look, you have all these other, aside from, what was this one was Huron. All the other bodies are bigger than that.
Yeah, Lake Ontario and Lake Erie are the two smallest of the Great Lakes.
Did I get it wrong? This is Huron.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All right. Yeah, I didn't learn nothing in this episode. Fine. I know where Lake Erie is though now, and that's a bonus. We're getting somewhere with that. So, all right. So, we are coming up on the end of the show here, guys. We are live today. So if you guys do have any other questions or comments, I appreciate all the comments and stuff in the comments section. There was a whole bunch there for a while I was trying to keep up on, but I didn't see any specific questions per se. So if you do have a question for Shetan about any of the creatures in the Great Lakes area, throw them in the comments section and we'll get to them before we wrap up here. Shetan, you got so much stuff going on. We could spend an entire episode talking about your classes and books and magazines and stuff. What do you got coming up? What do you got? Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook for social media. You can find my books and publications and journals on Amazon if you type in Squatch GQ, magazine. That will bring up everything I currently have, or you can type in my name, Shetan Noir, and that will also bring up what I have available. For events, I don't have any Paracons or crypto events coming up, but I do have library presentations here in Michigan coming up in May.
Any more on the Great Lakes sea creatures?
Well, I've already written the book, so
are there any of the library presentations for those?
Actually, that's my most requested presentation, so I did that one quite a bit, especially like spring through summer. That's like my number one requested, and then we go into Halloween season and everybody wants spooky stuff. But I think my next upcoming presentations are Nain Rouge, Michigan's ties to the Wizard of Oz, and I think Bigfoot in Michigan. So, and that's for May. So, and then I've got June, July, and August presentations. So
awesome. Free your mind to see, says great show and great guest. You rocks. So there you go.
Oh, thank you.
Very good. As usual, I always learn something from you. I'm going to have to go find the Halloween capital of the U.S. world, whatever it is, and go there, because I was not aware that was so close. And Lee did say, I don't know if you saw it pop up, that she did say that was in Minnesota. So that's why.
Okay. Yeah. Nokia.
But that was a long time ago in the comment section there. So
I know. I was like, okay, what did they just say?
Yeah, you were having fun there for a while. So awesome. But doesn't look like we got any more last minute questions or anything. So again, if you guys do, head on over to the social medias. All the links and stuff are in the show notes. You can contact Shetan directly with any of your questions or comments after the show, and check out all the books and magazines and stuff. The links are in the show notes for that as well on Amazon, and all of your stuff there. So awesome. Good stuff. And if you want more Great Lakes stuff, I don't know when it's going to come up, but Shetan was kind enough to record some pre-recorded shows for when we have some guest cancellations last minute and I need some shows. So there's a Great Lakes ghost ship episode coming from the Paranormal Spectrum, and that was a really good one. So more spooky Great Lakes from Shetan. So awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today. I always have fun, always learn something from you. So.
Oh, you are very welcome. Thank you.
Awesome. You'll have to shoot me your next bunch of prospective show topics, and we'll see where we can go. So
okay, sounds good to me.
Awesome. You take care, and I will talk to you later.
Okay, awesome.
All right, guys, that is our show for this week. Next week, Thursday, I will be live as well with Keith Evans coming on to talk about vampires and the Hayes House. Haunted Hayes House. So that'll be coming up Thursday here. We will be live again here on the Untold Radio Network on the Paranormal Spectrum. And then the next week, I will be busy with all of our fun things for our convention coming up next weekend, not this coming one, but the one after in Appleton, Wisconsin. And those two shows will be pre-recorded. Morgan Knutson joins us next week, Monday, on the show to talk about Dogman in Canada. And Jack Chavez will join us next Thursday to talk about some more haunted, cool stuff down in Chicago. So that's what we got coming up here. Until then, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, share, all things here on the Untold Radio Network. Until next time, guys, I'll see you on the edge.